Jenny Warren here, and you've joined us for Our Millwall Fan Show with the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking team.
I'm Libby Stubbs.
And I'm Millie Connell. Why not sponsor one of our teammates just like they do?
To find out how, just email commercial@millwall-lionesses.com. I'll say that again, commercial@millwall-lionesses.com.
That is all you have to do, and it will help us to get back to where we belong.
Now enjoy our Millwall Fan Show from the No One Likes Us Talking team.
Hello and welcome to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. Joining us today, we've got Henry Morgan. Hi, Henry.
Evening, Gaz.
Phil Colman. Evening, Phil.
All. Evening.
And the wonderful Jeff Bernage. Hi, Jeff.
Wonderful. Wonderful intro. Thank you. I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
So, the season's over now, guys. Went out a bit quiet in the end, but look, all I can say is I'm proud to have been part of that last game of the season in the mix. Look, as soon as that horrific goal was scored by Luton, we knew it was backed against the wall, and it was always going to be a tough ask. And to be honest, I didn't expect Bournemouth to play as well as they did, and they probably deserved to win the game in hindsight, and I think it was probably a game too far for us in the end. But look, it just shows when our dearest manager, Mr. Rowland, has been made been nominated for Manager of the Month this month, so it just shows what a good job we did to be still involved at the end. What were your thoughts on the last couple of games, Henry?
I thought second half Peterborough performance has been the pattern more recently. First half kind of lets us out what they're doing. Second half come out and really find our own sort of, move the ball quickly, our own patterns of play, getting amongst them and score some goals. So we managed to do that against a fairly ordinary Peterborough side, to be honest with you. But I did think my one thought really was about the Bournemouth game. It was almost a microcosm of our season in one game. We had a few players out injured who were key. We huffed and puffed. We had a big away following. It was our one opportunity to go out and really grasp our own destiny and do that, do our bit, because nothing else mattered unless we won. And we just had a bit of a hodgepodge of a side. Nothing really got going until Jed Wallace comes on the pitch, and then all of a sudden, we start looking lively and a bit more threatening, but we just can't make that goal. Shocking refereeing decisions. I've got no idea how that geezer managed to take the throw-in 400 yards away from where it was actually given, basically roll it in behind the defence. I'm still confused as to how that happened. But yes, you're right, Gaz. Bournemouth probably were more deserving of the victory on the day. Ollie Burke had a couple of good, I wouldn't say they were good, they were half chances that he that he gave a good go of, and that was about it really. I didn't really feel like we challenged their keeper too much, so for me it was a microcosm of the season. And there's certainly a blueprint there to build on for next season. It's just what we do, I guess, in the summer with some of those loan signings going back, everyone getting a year older, etc., etc.
What are your thoughts, Jeff?
I wouldn't underestimate the performance against Peterborough. They are a side in quite good form. I think if I'm not mistaken, didn't they win well on the last day as well? The game after they played us.
I'll check. Hold on. Go on.
But we seem to like kicking towards the Cold Blow Lane end in the second half, and that's been a pattern, hasn't it? That we've done better in the second half, particularly kicking that way. But it was a good day. I mean, everyone thoroughly enjoyed that day.
Yeah, Jeff, they beat Blackpool 5-0, so they go to show.
There you are. It does. But it was a good day. Lovely to see the ground full. Certainly the three normal sides, plus a lot of ours in what is normally the away end. What do we call that? The south stand. I think we probably do.
Yeah.
The Bournemouth game, I'm a bit concerned about our away form. We haven't got a lot of points recently away from home, have we? and yet we're the second best home team, I think, in the division. I saw that stat somewhere. We got the second most points of anyone in the division for home matches. So a little bit concerned. The argument would have been, if we adopted our reasonably cautious approach, if we'd won 1-0, which might have been possible, then we just needed Luton to lose, and they could have done that. So that would have meant that those tactics were spot on, but we didn't really go for it, did we? And I agree. It looked a lot more likely with Jed on the field. There you are. That's my views.
Fair enough. What do you think, Phil?
Evening, everyone.
Evening, Phil.
I've said this on every single podcast. Every game in this league is tough, even Peterborough. And I thought the second half against Peterborough, I'd seen it, the second half against Bournemouth at home, the second half. There seems to be a tactic, keep it tight, then build the confidence, and then just put a little bit more, the midfield move 10 yards further forward, and we just get into the game. And then the Peterborough game, I thoroughly enjoyed the day. I mean, I must have been the first to arrive at the ground, and I was probably the last to leave. I don't know how that worked out, but you get a clear run from Colchester, and I was at the ground about 11:15, and I think I left about 7:30. So I thoroughly enjoyed the day, and the result and the atmosphere around the ground with that north stand open in parts helped as well, for sure, and hopefully that will carry on. The Bournemouth game, I hate it when it's out of your control, when it's out of our hands. And I had a laugh and a joke with colleagues at work. I'll have a fiver on Fulham beating and Luton losing and Middlesbrough losing and Millwall winning. And good job I never actually had the bet, because, as I say, when it's out of your hands, you've got to do your bit. But when you're relying on other teams to lose, it's a tough one. And Bournemouth are a tough team. Over the course of the whole season, they've been promoted. But the interesting thing is we absolutely ripped them apart at the Den in the second half. I thought we were pretty much equal on Saturday. Great support from the fans, great appreciation from the players, and that one goal was likely to separate it. I thought there was a penalty where he eased him over. I mean, when you're travelling at pace into the box, it doesn't take an awful lot, and I think he's put his hand on his shoulder. That could have been a penalty, but it was equal. And that, you could argue about Henry. You could argue about where he took that throw on from, but that's just sloppy defending. That's being mugged,
poor, wasn't it? It was poor, wasn't it?
People back. You've got to be on red alert for a fast break. These teams are not mugs. You know, you have two centre backs back. Your full back's got to get back, and I just thought it was a sloppy fast break goal. But hey ho, I will say that. What we average in 13,000 fans. I think if you'd have said we're going to finish in that position and take it to the last game of the season in August 12.5, we would have picked your hands off for it. Every Millwall fan is offered that position in the league, still playing for something on the last game of the season. Last August 21, we'd have taken it all day.
I agree.
Yep.
So this week's show is going to be the last of the season, and it's going to be a bit like last week's show, and we're doing a bit of a discussion show with the panel and talking all things Millwall. This week we're going to be discussing what's needed to make the playoffs next season. Is Gary Rowland going to stay? What players would you like to come into the squad? And your highlight, just one of those each from us from the season. Before we get started, let's hear from the Proper Blokes Club.
Hello, I'm Scott and I founded the Proper Blokes Club. What is that I hear you say? Well, it's for men who have experienced or going through a tough time and fancy going for a walk and a talk. Or it could be you just want to get back on top of your game, maybe feeling lonely, or you could even be new to the area and just want to get out for a walk and a talk. This could be for you. So if you'd like to join us, we run sessions every Thursday, Sunday, starting at HMS Belfast, walking along the Thames up towards Surrey Quays. Thursday start time is 6 o'clock and Sunday start time is 6:30. If you guys are on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, find the Proper Blokes Club, give it a like, give it a follow, tag and share with your friends, or if you'd like to do it the old fashioned way, you can call Scott on 07397 501110. That's 07397 501110, and we can make arrangements for you to come along. So I look forward to seeing you joining us soon at the Proper Blokes Club.
I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Henry Morgan, Phil Colman, and Jeff Bernage. So, we've just been talking about our failed attempt this season to make the playoffs. What do we need to get over the line next season? It's just, I know the parachute payments is killing this division, and what's going to happen is the season we get promoted, it get taken away, which would be our luck. But it should have been taken away a long, long time ago. I think that's distorting this division. And look, if Leeds come down, if Everton come down, it's going to be a strange season again. And to be honest, the teams coming up from the Premier League, from the First Division, aren't as strong as they should be, really, apart from maybe Sunderland. There are some bigger teams in that division who could come up and come back into the Championship. But for us, I feel we probably do lack another striker to go alongside to put pressure on the likes of Bradshaw and if Afobe stays, etc. Do we need new tactics? I don't know. Do we need more experience in the side? Maybe an old head in the middle to galvanise us alongside a younger head? Because I don't know if Saville's the right person. I like him, but I don't know if he's the right person. And maybe more youth in there, just to be a bit more sprightly. And maybe the guy who's been playing at Sutton could come in and give us that spark. What do you think, guys? I'll start with Phil on this one first.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, the season for me has had more ups than downs. Some fans have been hypercritical of the style of play, but when you're in professional football, it's about trying to find a way to win games and an accumulation of points. Not in August. We're never going to be relegated in September. We're never going to be relegated in January. But you keep accumulating points. You win some, you draw some. You have a run of 4 wins. You might lose 2. But you have an end goal, which is 70 points or 40 points to avoid relegation. And you accumulate points, and it doesn't matter how you do it. You can be the most negative manager. What if we'd have got promoted by playing negative football? And this accumulation of points across the whole period. Don't ignore the major disruption of the injuries to key players. I thought watching Ryan Leonard come back, it was like having a brand new signing. You know, Agreed. So the disruption, it's not the injuries, 7 injuries at the same time. It is the disruption that it causes. You're losing Burke, you're losing Ballard, a key centre-back, you're losing Jed for a few games injured. It's not that the fact they're injured, it's the guy coming into the team has got to get up to match speed, match tactics, be match fit, match sharp, and then all of a sudden he goes after 3 or 4 weeks, and the best player comes back in. It's all disruptive, and it's these little nuances that cost us. So that's been, hopefully next season we'll have less of it. I'd also say that I get the parachute payments, and I think the last time I was on, I was talking with Tony Cascarino. We hate the parachute payments, but you can't control it. And as a professional football manager and as a professional player, you can only control what you can control. So Millwall Football Club can control how many people come into the ground, what the revenue, what the income is. Gary Rowland can only get in players within the wage budget. He's not looking at Fulham getting 40 million. He's not looking at Bournemouth getting 40 million. He's looking at trying to sign somebody that's going to improve the team. And you create your own luck. We can have the tightest defence and we always win 1-0. That's creating the way to play and how to win. So you create your own luck. You control what you can control. And for me, you start doing what Alex Ferguson did with Man United. They win the league and then they go and sign 3 better players. Because if we don't sign better players next year and everybody else does, we won't be 8th or 9th in the league fighting for a playoff spot. We'll be mid-table or lower because everybody's improved. And to do that, for me, you've got to sign proven championship players, be it youngsters, be it 28-year-olds, be it 30-year-olds. Listen, when you see Ronaldo playing at that standard, right? Forget about age. We can sign 30-year-olds on 3-year contracts and they will be absolutely brilliant. So we've got to get the standard of player into the club. And I think I would also, as an ex-pro and my job in PE every day is you analyse performances all day long and how can I improve these young people and how can I improve the teams that I coach. When you break it down into defenders, keepers, midfield, strikers, tactics, youth experience, you budget for injuries, you budget for the loan market just in case. We've got what I call the Bs. We've got Billy, we've got Tyler Bury, we've got Ballard, Bennett, Burke, Bradshaw. I'd love to keep all of them because there's a solid nucleus there. Bartkowski, there's for some reason it's all Bs. But keep the Bs, but you've got to build around them. You've got to have Brian Clough, Peter Shilton, Larry Lloyd, Trevor Francis. He had a spine through the team. Well, our Bs have almost become the spine. But what you do is you say, can I get a better centre-back than Ballard? Can I get a better centre-forward than Bennett? Bradshaw, and Bennett. And you're constantly looking, they're your spine, they're what you've got, but can I get better? I think, I'm rattling on here, but I think in goal, we've got a very, very strong trio there. But the question in football is, can you keep your number 2 and number 3 because they're not playing in the limelight? Big question. Defenders. Ballard is probably not going to come back. So for me, the one thing I've been banging on about is we lack some sharp, massive pace at the back. You know, if the opposition have a live wire, have we got somebody to match them? We've got experience. They've played hundreds of games for the club. They know the division now. They've stepped up from League One. They had 4 or 5 seasons of it now. But I really want somebody that, listen, pace from the opposition doesn't worry us. So who are we going to get in at the back if Ballard's not coming back? I think there's a nice balance in midfield. We've got some cloggers and defenders. We probably need a bit more flair going forward. That might tip it when we're on top. Strikers, listen, you might have heard me say Wolves got promoted. They spent 35 million on 2 strikers a couple of years ago. We haven't got 35 million, or perhaps we have. So you've got Afobe, you've got Bradshaw, you've got Burke, you've got Bennett, but is there somebody out there that's going to put the cherry on the cake and actually get you 20 goals? They're going to cost an awful lot of money, or you get lucky and nick one. Tactics, I think we've been solid, hard to beat. We've taken teams apart in second halves. Perhaps that is the tactic. I think we've got a good balance of youth and experience. We definitely need experience. And again, I can only harp on about my experiences. When you win the FA Youth Cup and you're making up the vast majority of the team, we got relegated. We struggled. We had John Jackson, we had Barry Kitchen and Mel Blythe, but there was a squad of about 11 youngsters in that team. I think they've got the balance right. And I said, don't underestimate injuries. People like Leonard, Bennett, these people, they're going to be better for working from now, and they will be working from now right the way through pre-season, and fingers crossed when they kick off, they're going to be even stronger and even better, and those injuries are going to be behind them. But the biggest thing for me is what Alex Ferguson did when he won the league, or in Millwall's case, you finish in that position with those points, you build better than you've currently got, because if not, everybody else will overtake you. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Jeff, I'll go to you next.
I agree with a lot of what Phil's just said. I would say that to me it looks like we really pushed the boat out on wages. Be under no illusions that Bernage would have been on Premier League wages fitting for a player that was signed for it was something between 10 and 20 million, wasn't it? I mean, those players get good wages, so that must have cost us a lot. The same with Oliver Burke. That must have cost us a lot. Way out of our normal wage budget, I would think.
Can I just say about that? If Bennett Afobe might be on 40 grand, we would be negotiating to pay a third or a half.
Yeah, 33 off her.
Within your Millwall budget of wages, you're probably not paying their whole wages. It will be negotiated a third or a half. So I think that's quite cute from Gary Rowland and the club to get good players in, but only pay so much of their wages because it's a loan deal. Sorry, Jeff, to interrupt.
That is normal, and we probably paid between a third and a half of his weekly wage. We don't know. It would probably be the same for Ollie Burke, because neither of those were greatly wanted by their clubs, and they both had financial problems, budgeting problems. The same with Shea Ojo. He was in the last year of his contract, but Liverpool players aren't paid a pittance, so I don't know what percentage we paid. It would be a matter of negotiation, and if other clubs wanted to take the same player on loan, it would then become an auction as to who was willing to pay the most towards his wages. But I repeat that they would not have come cheap. Even at those reductions, they still would have been our best paid players for the season, even with. It's going to be a very tricky job to repeat that. They were players, with the exception of Ballard. Mind you, he had half a season at Blackpool and got them promoted, didn't he? So they were reasonably experienced. But Phil's point about young players being in the side, when you're in the top half of the Championship, the standard of player you have to have means that it's not easy to throw promising youngsters in. When we've had seasons in League One, or whatever it was called when we did it, you could push young players in and let them grow in the side. Not easy when you're in the top half with a chance, at least, of getting in the playoffs. Not easy at all. Perhaps that explains Gary's reluctance to use Tyler Bury all that much. Perhaps it does. But, Phil also made a very good point about our injuries. It is a common thing that gets blamed. I don't think Gary Rouse blamed it too much in his interviews. But if you think back to December and January, we were having to play. If you looked at our bench, Tyrese Briscoe, Nana Boateng, Bez Topolodge, we were really scraping to get the side out. So we had really wicked injuries around that time. Most importantly, Jed. I think recent performances have shown how important he is. What we need to do to improve, Phil's exactly right. On this point, I can give him my 100% agreement. Unless we improve significantly, we won't even finish as high as we did this season. So there's a job there to be done. It is going to be recruitment. I don't know who chose the players we brought in last summer. It looks like Alex Aldridge will play a part in that this summer. We'll have to wait and see. But I agree with Phil. It'll be an achievement if we match this season. It'll depend on who we manage to sign. And can I come on to just finally onto the parachute payments issue?
Yeah.
This was brought in because when it was brought in, Premier League clubs were going down and having major financial problems because they had been paying Premier League wages and were really affected adversely financially when they went down.
I've got one thing to say for that, Jeff. What a shame. But you've been relegated for a reason.
Yeah, but the players need paying, and there were some severe financial problems. That's why they brought it in. When they brought it in, it wasn't as extensive as it is now. It's gone to a third season now, and I think that's pretty much indefensible. I'm optimistic that as part of the Tracy Crouch review, the regulator will regard that as being some kind of monopoly or antitrust issue, because there's no doubt it's skewed the competition in the Championship. No doubt. There are yo-yo clubs now, and so that's antitrust or monopolistic. And I can see that being minimised, reduced a bit. And the Premier League now, the big boys aren't too scared of being relegated. I mean, Everton's an exception this season. Newcastle would be if they struggled again. But they're not too bothered about the Norwiches and the Watfords and the Bournemouths going down and being a bit hard up in the division below. That won't worry Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, the Manchester clubs. So there may be some relief from that. With that, let's move on to another issue. I've had my say.
Okay, and next up we'll have Henry's comments on that as well before we move on to is Gary Rowland going to stay?
Sorry, man. I'm going to be controversial and say I think actually next year we should take a step back. I don't think we can make the playoffs unless we sign a proven goal scorer, unless we, or somebody, we take a gamble on somebody that can come in and get those extra goals that we need, 10 extra goals that we need really to cement our place in the playoffs. I personally don't think Bernige is that individual. He had a good end to the season, but I saw too many performances for me this year where the service wasn't great because of the players that we had there, but that service is going to get worse, right? We're losing Jed Wallace. That's a huge set of boots to fill. And the thing that worries me is that when those performances, when he was out around January, I'm thinking about Blackpool away, some of those, performances, we really, really struggled. So that's the biggest thing for me is, look, if we want to try and push on for the playoffs next year, my God, then we need to replace somebody. We need to find another Jed Wallace, and we got lucky with him, didn't we? Time and a place, and he's developed with us 250 games or whatever. So yeah, that's a huge thing. Maybe Elliot Anderson. I know he was at Bristol Rovers this last year, had a very good season. A player like that potentially coming in for me. But I think, look, what I would say is we've got a lot of young talent coming through the side. Now, whether they can step up or not, I don't know. But maybe it's worth us looking at them in a bit more detail. And we certainly potentially need to strengthen a little bit in midfield. But I would say at the back, we think about Alex Mitchell, Hayden Muller, what's going on with those guys? Maybe they need another loan. But what they're going to want to push on and get into the first team at some stage. And so maybe next year's their year, because I'm not being funny. Sean Hutchinson's starting to pick up injuries. Jake Cooper's never been the same since he played 120 games back to back. I'd love to see us sign someone like Ollie Burke, but I just don't think we'd be able to afford him, A, or B, his wages. And I think that leaves us up front with probably Bradshaw, Bennett. We could keep Tyler Burry, and maybe we're looking at bringing up someone like Nana Boateng. Isaac Olafi as well coming. Does he have a role in the team next year? I mean, it kind of feels like he should potentially maybe have at least half a season in League One. So, in my opinion, next season's actually about rebuilding, and it's about staying in the Championship, because I think that's going to be a real challenge for us next year.
Can I just come in there, Gary?
Yeah, of course you can.
On putting young players forward, when you're in the top half of the Championship, the game's different to when you're in League One.
It is, Jeff, but what we do, just get rid of them then.
No, the best way of dealing with it is to make sure they get plenty of good loan experience so you can see whether they are good enough. You're not taking a gamble. You're not taking a gamble. You can see. So I would be in favour of the players you mentioned, perhaps starting with us in pre-season, but by the deadline day, which I think is August the 31st, or it may be the 1st or 2nd of September because it's a bank holiday, then you've still got time to loan people out. And I think that's something they're going to have to pursue. Of the players you mentioned, there's an interesting one that you mentioned in Alex Mitchell. He started really well at Leyton Orient, got an injury. Yeah. He's struggled to get back in the side regularly, but I can tell you something that people don't know about him. He probably is the fastest player in our club. Now, very unusual for a 6'2", big, strongly built centre-back to be quick, but he is very quick. So that's something that I'm hoping will be looked at in pre-season. I'm hoping. As for we're needing to do what Henry was saying, the other way of doing it is to emulate Luton, to emulate Huddersfield, right? Huddersfield did spend some money. They'd raised some to spend it, but who would have taken them to be third and sixth? Was it third and sixth? So it is possible with good management, good recruitment, and relatively free from injuries. Luton really started to hiccup when they hit injuries. They hit theirs in April. We hit ours in December and January. In the end, it nearly evened itself out. We were, we were just a goal or two on the last day from getting ahead of them. So more than one way to skin a cat. And look, I'll be hopeful, but it will depend largely on recruitment and retention.
Cool. All right then, guys, let's move on to our next topic for this section. Is Gary Rowland going to stay? Personally, I think 100% yes. I heard rumours, everyone's talking about he hasn't signed a contract, but I think the contract he signed was like in December time. And it's rolling. Yeah, it's rolling contract anyway. So I think he came to us about that sort of November, December time. So why would the contract, if he signed a 3-year contract, be up now? So all this talk about him being up for the end of now is all a bit and the QPR rumour. He silenced a lot of people in this club. He obviously was going through a tough patch. Things go wrong for managers. We all know that. We all know. You just can't pick the right side. Your last-minute goals. Look at the Forest game. Look how important that goal was now when you look back at the end of the season, that one goal at Forest. And as Dale kept on saying, we got outclassed by Swansea. For the next 4 or 5 games, I think Swansea didn't pick up a point or maybe a couple of points. Yeah. So it's just a one-off game that they just hit the ground running. And to be honest, Swansea's a bit of a bogey team for us at our place recently anyway. But yes, I think he's going to stay. Yes, I think... all the rumours are if he goes we get Sean Dyche. That's never going to happen. And to be honest, if I was going to do it, I'd go down the route of what Watford has just done. They just got the Forest Green manager. What a great opportunity that is. I've got family of Watford fans and they are really, really excited and pleased with that appointment. Rather than have all these idiots who don't know the leagues, this guy's going to come in and really strip Watford down to the bare bones again. And I don't think they get promoted next season. They won't go bouncing straight back up because he'd try and rebuild that club from within and hopefully he'd be able to do it. So maybe if we're going to go and Gary's going to move on, which I don't think he will, maybe we should do something like the same and not going for all these big names all the time because there are a lot of good young managers coming up from the lower leagues at the moment ready to prove themselves. As you went last time, Henry, you can kick us off with this one.
I can't. Obviously, you can never be 100% sure of this, but if you're Gary Rowett and you've been treated badly at Birmingham, not really given a lot of, a fruitcake place like Stoke, the one thing that I'd say, like, John Berylson is not a knee-jerk chairman. He's not someone that's going to get rid of him. He's given him time. He's given him the benefit of the doubt. I actually don't think JB is that bothered about what goes on in the day-to-day running of the football club and the results and stuff like that, other than keeping us in the Championship so that we can stay relevant when the regeneration comes round. Maybe I'm being slightly cynical in that, but that's my personal view. I can't see him going. I mean, why? Unless he gets offered a significantly large amount of money from another club that's going to make his family financially stable for the rest of his and their lives, I just don't see why he would leave Millwall. He's got a good thing here. He's talked about a 3-year plan. He hasn't even come to the end of that 3-year plan yet. That would come in October. And he's upgraded a lot of our players, as Phil's often said. He's upgraded to Championship players. And And, you know, if you look at the amount of injuries we've had this year, and I've been a big proponent of keeping Gary Rowett, and I've defended him on many different forums, many different times, because you can see what he's trying to do. Something that was very interesting, Jeff was there, the training session that was held at the Sponsors' Day, you could really see what he was trying to get the players to do. Keep the ball, play it around the back, and go up the sides of the pitches, or put it into the middle if someone comes short. And what I noticed was, as soon as the pressure came on against Birmingham City, which was about 3 days later, we lost our heads and started pumping the ball up the field. And I was like, hang on a second. If I'm Gary Rowett, I'm pulling my hair out, because this is what I coached them literally 2 days ago. So there's definitely something there as well, which I thought was very interesting. But no, I mean, I can't see him going.
Fair enough.
We've only had the end of the season a week ago, and I think everyone's bored, so the rumours come out, the speculation comes out. Any manager that does half well, as Gary's done in the last few months and this season, is going to be linked to other clubs. So the speculation is rife about players and managers, keeps everyone being bored after the season ends, for sure. I love the opinions, and it will carry on going. I don't think a manager of Gary Rowett's tenure over in the clubs that he's had in his playing career, I don't think it's about money. His age and his length in the Football League, he's probably going to be reasonably well off. He'll have a Football League pension. So I don't think he's going to take mega bucks. You know, he's got money in the bank. I'd like to think he has anyway. I think with a manager like him, we're all fighters. We were in pro sport for a reason. We wanted to win. We wanted to do well. And I think with somebody like Gary, you've got to walk in his shoes. What would I want? I want ambition. I'm ambitious. The club's got to match my ambition. The club's got to match my vision. So the owner, and I think JB has backed, the chief executive, the money for transfer window markets, wages, and then how appealing can Gary make it to come to the Den? Bearing in mind, some of these players might be moving from up north where it's reasonably cheap to South East London, Bromley, Kent area. There's a lifestyle change. The rents might be more, the housing might be more, the kids have got to move school. So how appealing and attractive is the Den? Definitely agree with one of you guys. Someone said about keeping hold of our own players. Listen, people are going to be looking at Danny Mack. People are going to be looking at, I think Ballard's gone, but they're going to be looking at some of our young players. They might even be looking at, if Obi fits my little club that I'm trying to put together, I'll offer him more wages. So keeping hold of some of our players. I think Gary needs some luck. He was battered by COVID and injuries. To finish where we are, as we're talking, I'm suddenly reflecting, COVID took a few of the players away. COVID disrupted. COVID and injuries combined in one season, that's bad luck. You know, people talk about the injuries, what are we doing in training? I've covered that in a previous podcast. You know, they've got specialists looking after these guys, so you need a bit of luck. But for me, I'd probably say, what is the club prepared to do financially? What is the club prepared to have an ambition and a vision that Gary Rowett buys into? Because at the end of the day, your recruitment, as someone said, you're bringing in players that must be better, but within what the club says. And if the club says it's X, Y, Z, and Gary wants A, B, C, he'll walk. You've got to have a vision for the manager. You've got to match his aspirations. And I think I've always said, I've got a platinum vision. I might accept gold. And my platinum vision is players coming into Millwall for £30 million and earning about 50 grand a week, and we win the league. Okay, it's not going to happen. What's the gold? Players can come in for less and be paid less, and we come second, third, fourth, or fifth. So there's a vision, and it has to be bought into everybody. I'm not sure it's about Gary's personal wealth or is that, but I think it's about his professional vision and ambition, and I think that will drive him. Someone also mentioned about the youngsters. They've got to come in the side, cut their teeth and come out again. And George Petty, my dad in football, was absolutely brilliant at it. You play 4 games, you think you've arrived, and he bombs you out. And I think people like Lovelace, he's been in the squad, let them grow, let them learn. As Jeff said, send them out on loan, bring Alex Mitchell back in, do a whole pre-season with the first team. If he comes up short, send him out on loan again till Christmas. and nurture them, bring them on, but just don't throw them in and let them sink because they're the only players you've got because the budget's been cut and we're bringing cheaper youngsters through. So there's a real hodgepodge there of thoughts, but I think for me the biggest thing is the club and Gary Rowett's ambition, and if they're aligned, I think he'll stay, and I think they will back him because he's proven that he can do it over the last couple of years through some tough times, COVID, no fans, and a dreadful injury list. So yeah, fingers crossed he'll stay.
Cheers, Phil. And Jeff?
I don't know that we can be sure that John Barrelson will continue to put many millions of pounds into the club every year. And what will tend to happen then is you'll be more inclined to play homegrown players because it does save money on the wage bill. You're not having to pay Liverpool players, Nottingham Forest players, Arsenal players, their wages or a percentage of them. But whether he's going to stay, does anybody seriously think he's done enough to be given a Premier League job now? I don't think many people would see that as likely, which means he's almost certainly going to be considered for Championship jobs. Because he's done well in the Championship and he clearly knows the division. But there was talk, wasn't there, at the end of January, there had been a bit of bust-up over whether he could sign the two strikers with badly needed at the time, both of which I think went to Cardiff. And I think a few people moaned about that. Cardiff didn't finish too well, did they? So it's very hard to guarantee anything. I think Gary Rowett will end up staying. You asked about the rolling contract. None of us have been told. I'm sure you could find out from looking at the club's accounts. You could probably guess which employee he is, although they're not obliged in their accounts to say who earns what. So it will be difficult to work it out. But I think he probably arrived on a rolling contract. So my guess is that if he wanted to go, he would be in a position to go. And if we wanted to give him the boot, we'd be in a position to give him his P45. I don't know for a fact. I think the chances are he'll be staying because Birmingham have just changed manager. Who'd want to go there? It's so unstable at ownership and boardroom level, right? You're quite right whoever said that John Barrelson's a great chairman for a manager to work for. Another one that's vacant is QPR, or was vacant, is QPR. They finished below us in disarray. There's tensions on the board there and with the chief executive. I mean, he clearly fell out with his manager and won the internal struggle with Mark Warburton. So I think the chances are Gary will be staying. I hope he is. I think he's earned another stab at promotion, but a lot will depend on recruitment. He brought his own chief scout in from Birmingham, who didn't last very long, and the club opted to bring back Alex Aldridge. That was an interesting state of affairs. So there's a lot on Alex Aldridge. You don't see him around the club at all, which is good because it means he's out watching other teams' players, which can only be good. So now that's what I think.
Fair enough. Right, next up, that's very interesting, guys. But next up, we will be listening to Harvey Brown and the Lions Food Hub. Followed by Debbie and Kelly Webster. And then when we come back, we'll be talking about what we've been mentioning it, but what players would like to come into the squad, and then your one major moment of the season before we start talking about other things.
First of all, let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need support, and you can help if you can by making a one-off or a regular monetary donation online at Banquet, that is BANKUET. Or, on a Saturday, you should make donations pre-match at the hub, about 50 metres down from the Lions store. Alternatively, you can also contact the team via their Twitter and Facebook sites.
I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Henry Morgan, Phil Colman, and Jeff Bernage. Okay, so as I said, I'd like to discuss the players that I'd like to, or maybe you think of other different ones that I'd like to bring into the squad this season. My standout ones that I'd like to bring in, I know someone's mentioned Toffolo. Yeah, he didn't get a chance before. I don't know why, or particularly why, but if Huddersfield do get promoted, he would someone I'd like to bring in because he's now got a lot of championship experience. I think maybe before, I don't think he quite had that, and being at a club like Huddersfield, it's really helped him. Swift from Reading, he should be playing at a higher level in this division, so maybe someone like him. Definitely would like to keep Bennett, definitely would like to keep Burke. Elliot Anderson, one that's been talked about from Bristol Rovers. Talk about last game of the season. What about their last game of the season? Had 7 to get and they got it. Well done. That was the game that was the swing of the division league this year. A couple of other players. Alfie May and I believe it was Stan or Dave mentioned Twine. I'm not sure where he's from. But what are your thoughts, guys, on some of those or any others you think around the divisions that we could bring in? I'll start with you, Henry.
I think, to be honest, I think you've probably mentioned most of the players that I think that we would reasonably be able to have a look at. I've seen that we're looking at a couple of loanees maybe coming in, which always seems to be the way, right? Like we top up with loanees, or we take a punt on someone who hasn't quite made it somewhere else or has got a lot of potential. I mean, someone like Ollie Burke, I chatted to him at the sponsor day, and I mean, he's got international football experience. He was at Leipzig, he was, Alaves, as well as coming up through the ranks at Forest, and I just, I mean, I guess for me has he had a big enough impact to want to spend probably the kind of money we'd need to in order to try and get him? I think his combined transfers are similar to Bernige from what Jeff was saying, 50, 60, 70 million pounds in total, right? And, obviously we're getting his wages. He's also, if you've seen, got a very interesting sense of dress, which can't come cheaply. So maybe we can lure him down with some of the boutiques in London. I don't know. But no, I'd love to sign him. I think that if he got a decent run in the side, he could be a very good forward. His pace is unbelievable. His pace is unreal. Like, there have been a couple of times that I've been genuinely shocked that he's managed to get to a ball at the byline and get it into the box. But it looks, I've got to be honest, I think Bernige, some of the things he said at the end of the season, about let's wait and see. And for me, he understands that he probably wants a bit more money than what Millwall could offer him. I don't know. But I think, we're probably looking at those kind of individuals. But a midfielder for me would be great. I think another centre-back, but that could well be a loanee. For me in midfield, it is that Matt Anderson, I think he's exactly the kind of player that we could potentially get in. I don't know. That's those would be my main things.
Okay, Phil, what's your thoughts?
Clearly, we've got a new director of football and recruitment, so I wish Alex Aldridge the very best because Man United have got their recruitment wrong and Man City seem to get it right. It is absolutely vital you recruit the right type of character and personality for Millwall, because you're going to get slaughtered by the fans.
Yes,
you've got to have the right type of person that's going to come down and live in the area of Bromley or wherever these guys locate. and you've got to have that type of person that's good enough to play in the Championship and be probably now a top 10 Championship player, because that's the bar that we've moved to. So that's the director of recruitment's job. I would definitely secure some of the Bs. I'll throw this out. Burke is the replacement for Jed Wallace. There has been little golden nuggets of his pace and quality that, I'm going to say it, some fans might not like it, was better than some of Jed's end product. He's got pace, the guy. He's got absolute quality. Now, I've said in previous podcasts again that it's a really disruptive moving down to this part of the world and bedding in, and it might take a year. Well, he's had that little bit of settling in period. If he stays, if we get him going, if he's fit, if he does all the pre-season, if his family and his wife and his kids, whatever his background circumstances, are all settled, you could have one hell of a player in that role that Jed had quite a bit of. You've also got Freeman. I don't know what the situation is in, but anybody that played for Sheffield United in the Premier League has got pedigree to play in the top 10 of the Championship. And there's another guy that's an attacking threat with pace. A guy that I'm going to throw left wing, you're looking for somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net. You're looking for somebody that 10 other players might have to do the donkey work and carry the guy that's going to get you in this league 15, 20 goals. I've seen a guy play for Wrexham called Paul Mullin, and he's with the league's top scorer in Division 2 for Cambridge. Wrexham bought him and took him down a division and paid him more wages. Paul Mullin scores goals for fun at Wrexham in the National League. Now, I've said before that you've got to be, everybody's looking for this golden nugget that's cheap and from a lower division, but Paul Mullin might just be one of those types that you just have a little nugget. How much the Wrexham want for him if they don't get promoted this season from the National League? You know, they might want a couple of $100,000 for him. So there are little nuggets like a Paul Mullin out there, or you might have to go down the loan market. And I'll throw Ojo in. I saw nuggets of him looking like a quality player as well. Disruptive to come down as a 23, 24-year-old, out of contract perhaps at Liverpool. Can you take these golden nuggets from below, which everyone's watching, but you might just nick one from a Chelsea or from a Liverpool, a 23-year-old that's been let go that is as good as what we've got. So I'll chuck those in at you. And I'd also say that there is a huge building. It's going to keep Millwall fans on the edge of their seats because all the loans are going back. Some loans are coming back. We haven't touched on Marlon Romeo coming back. Alofi from Sutton coming back.
He's going.
Mitchell. Yeah, so we've got the players coming back from loan. We've got the players that are finishing their loans. We've got the boys that are settled and on contract. So it's going to be a damned hard summer for Gary and his head of recruitment. But I wish him well, but I wouldn't like to be in their position. But there are nuggets out there, but everyone's after them.
I mean, the only thing I'd say, Phil, is I agree. Ollie Burke's currently rated £4.5 million.
Wow.
And I can't. I'd love him to. Maybe we could get another year's loan. I don't know.
Is he still in contract for another year then with Sheffield United?
Is that his parent club, Sheffield United?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
if Sheffield United get promoted, he might be surplus. They need to go and buy better, and you might get him for less.
Oh, I think he's surplus. For one reason or another, he's surplus.
He was in their squad for,
You mentioned Bernage, saying that we'll have to wait and see. Make no mistake, in my opinion, what he's talking about is what will Stoke do? Because they've loaned a centre forward to what they thought was a lesser club and taken a big hit on his wages to allow him to move to Millwall, and they finished 10 places below us, or whatever it was, 6 or 7 places below us. I can't see Stoke being able to justify to their fans and their board doing the same thing again. So until we know what deal Stoke will do, until we know what deal Sheffield United will do, until we know what deal Arsenal will do, those things are in flux. It's not about the players wanting more money. Bernage will get his wages whether he's loaned out or not, because he's under contract. So it's not about that, in my opinion. By the way, I think we've all underestimated Bernage. I think he is a top third of the division striker. I do.
Agreed. I agree, Jeff.
I also agree with Phil about Oliver Burke. The worry is he's only 24. He was in the first team. What was his first club? Was it West Brom?
I think his first club was Forest.
Whatever.
He came through playing in Beeston.
He's been disposed of. That's a bit of a harsh word, but he hasn't done it at Leipzig. He hasn't done it at Forest. He could be one of those. Was the best he's ever going to be when he was 18. He played for Scotland when he was 18. He's a full international.
17 caps for him, 16 caps to score a goal.
Yeah, I mean, so, but I do agree with Phil. I think that we saw...
Won the league with Celtic.
We saw glimpses.
Yes, he won the league with Celtic. He played 31 games for Alaves, Jeff. He's had a couple of key injuries, but he's played over 100 games. He's had
a lot of moves for a 24-year-old. That's not ideal. I mean, the player. You've asked us to nominate players. I think there'll be great competition for John Swift. Someone mentioned him.
Yes.
There's one or two others got mentioned. My one, I'm going on players I've seen play live rather than on television, and I haven't seen many games apart from Millwall games this season, less than normal. But I did see Oxford United, Brannigan. The midfield player Brannigan. I really.
Were we on from before? That rings a bell, Brannigan. Were we in from before?
We showed interest in January. So did the rest of the world show interest in him. He's certainly as good a midfield player as there is in that division. And Oxford have tailed off, and they're not a wealthy club. I don't know what his contract situation is. I think he may even be out of contract. But he would be good enough for me. Incidentally, one of the players that was not even mentioned today, which probably does divide opinion, is Billy Mitchell. I think he's done really well.
Yes,
and I think that fans expect a midfield player to arrive in the box and score 8 or 9 goals a season. But the top clubs have players that are they're there to protect their back four players.
Break up play,
Billy doesn't give the ball away.
I love
Billy Mitchell. I love Billy Mitchell.
He was my player of the season.
Close. But that's the one I'm going to nominate. Brannigan. He'll go somewhere this summer. I'd love it to be us. He's a scout. He started at Liverpool. And it was a great signing by someone at Oxford. When we look, what I used to do when I was involved was I'd look for any player that was signed from a lower division the previous summer who did well, right? And I want to know which club or which chief scout was clever enough to make that signing. Someone at Oxford signed. Is his name Cameron Brannigan? I think it is Brannigan anyway, from Liverpool. And someone was brave enough to go and sign Ollie Watkins. Someone was brave enough to go and sign Ivan Toney. Okay, both of those were for big money by Brentford. But someone at Brentford knows a player, that's for sure. Their centre-back, Ethan Pinnock, do you know where they signed him from? Dulwich Hamlet. Wow. That's where they signed him from, right? So there is good recruitment to be done out there, and our hopes for next season depend very largely on how well we do on recruitment and retention this summer. That's what I got my eyes on.
Cool. All right.
Gary, can I chuck one in?
Yeah,
there's also some recruitment tactics out there, and I'll rattle them off in no uncertain order. You've got agents to deal with, and they can be quite domineering and quite defiant at times, in my humble opinion. They will be telling players where to go because they want their cut and they want the players the best deals, etc. You've got the Premier League clubs that are coming down that are going to have to offload players, where they're quite clearly good enough to play in the Premier League, but they can't stay for financial reasons, and whilst they're getting a parachute payment, some have to go. You've got the Peterboroughs of this world who might have had one or two really good players that don't want to go and play in League One and have proven that they're damn good enough for the Championship.
And there was a few at Barnsley, my dad said. I didn't go to the game, but my dad said there was one or two at Barnsley that really stood out as well.
So these clubs that are going down from the division above might help. The clubs that are going down from our division and the players that are good enough and don't want to go into League One. So there are some tactics out there that you can start looking at. And I'll tuck in, it's probably one for another day, but I'm pretty certain you watch South of the River and these guys playing in the cages in South London. I don't know whether you watched that programme on TV over a couple of series, but the amount of South London boys that were playing in the cages in these housing estates that have signed pro, I got to 50.
Really?
There were 50 lads playing in the cages on an estate in Peckham, in Crystal Palace, in Greenwich, in Blackheath, in Suffolk Park, and they are all around the Premier League. They're all in the top division in Germany. Perhaps our blokes need to go and have a look at some of the talent in these cages just south of the river. It was staggering. Absolutely. Rio Ferdinand was the first one. Obviously, he's well retired and had a great career. But you've got guys there that, Ezzy has gone to... Crystal Palace. He went to my school. He went to the wrong school in Blackheath. He was playing in these cages, So they're out there.
He was let go by a lot of clubs, though, Phil. Ezzy.
Yeah, but they're out there.
Same.
But it was us that signed Bernage, Ezzy. He was in our youth team.
But there's the others that have come through.
I'm surprised it's that many, but look, one thing's for sure: if you sign those players, a good percentage of them will be hungry.
Yeah.
A good percentage of them will be on youth team money to start with, right? And they'll have a value. I mean, you've got some great ones, but make no mistake, Phil. Nowadays, the likes of Liverpool are looking at those players when they're 9 and 10 years of age.
Oh, when they're paying millions, Jeff, when they're 15.
But it doesn't even get that far. They very often move them up on what they've seen, what their scouts have identified. I mean, who's the lad? There's a I think he's a centre forward at Huddersfield, right? He's one of those players. No one offered him a deal in London. He went to one of those academies that are a bit dubious. Can't remember which. And eventually he got a trial at Huddersfield and got in. And that was at a young age. So I agree, we do need to be more on top of our local area. Sadly, Phil, nowadays, you tend to lose the cream of them. I mean, are we going to hang on to Zach Lovelace? Time will tell. Are we going to hang on to Chin Okoli, who's a very quick, tall centre-back or holding midfield player? I've seen him do both. Latterly, he's been a centre-back. He's very, very good.
Is it a guy called Josh Karoma?
No, I don't know. I don't know him.
Oh, okay.
He must be an under-16s. They don't publicise the names, and I haven't been able to get and see them play. But I know the under-23 team, and I know the under-18 team. Although I haven't seen them play all that much, but I've seen enough of Okoli to know that I'd really love to keep him. Someone I know as a Premier League club I won't name tells me they've been tracking him for 2 years. If they choose, and when you're leaving school as an under-16, you're entitled to move, right? When you passing out of your youth team contract, that scholarship contract, you're entitled to move if you choose to. The club can't stop you moving. What happens is it goes to a formula and a tribunal to decide what the compensation fee should be. And we've lost a number. We've lost 2 players to Man City, one of whom's in the first team squad. What's his name? Sam Edozie.
Yeah, Edozie.
He played in the charity. What's it called? The Community Shield.
Yeah, early this season.
In the summer, it's desperately difficult, more difficult than in my day. But nevertheless, that's where you've got to look. as well as everywhere else.
Because you can pick these boys up at 8, 9, 10. You might make £1 million at 16, 17 by flogging them on. I'm looking at the list here. Jadon Sancho, Declan Rice, Tammy Abraham, all came out of South London cages on estates. Yeah, we might get some end of youth funding for them, but there are these tactics. Go and look at a Wrexham nugget from the lower leagues. Go and get the clubs that have been relegated and the players that don't want to go down. So there are some tactics out there that we haven't got to tell Gary Rowett or Alex Aldridge this. They know this, So there are players available, and every year, and I've been there, there's a retained list, and if you're not on the retained list, you're available for free. And the free transfers, if you know your stuff and you know where to look, you can pick up a Terry Hurlock for hardly anything. You can pick up these players, and what you do is, if Ollie Burke has not had the arm round him and not been in that comfortable environment, a manager might actually spark him up. So you've got to back your judgment to bring a lad in, look after him and get the best out of him as well. So, yeah, I don't wish him, it's a tough job and I wish him well.
The top half of the Championship is a world away from the top half of the of League One.
Yeah.
Even though there's some big clubs there. To bring in Paul Mullin, who did quite well at Cambridge in League Two, to jump 3 divisions, even to jump from the League One to the top half of the Championship is a big jump. So that would represent a big gamble to me. I don't know the player. I've not seen him play live.
I have, Jeff, and he's an absolute poacher.
Yeah,
if he hits a shot, it's a goal. He doesn't miss. He's one of the better strikers that I've seen, that he's just so focused on finding space, and if he gets a shot, it's a goal. He's so clean. He's an absolute what do you call him? A specialist. He's a finisher. It's a big step up. It's a big step up.
A lot of our fans were not rating Tom Bradshaw. He never scores a goal. The fact of the matter is, at that period of time when he wasn't scoring, he wasn't being given a chance to score. There were games he played, he never got a shot in because we weren't that kind of a team that made a lot of chances. So a specialist finisher might not be successful at Millwall. I mean, it's always a gamble. We don't know yet that Erling Haaland will fit in to Man City's way of playing. Certainly they don't play the way now that he plays when he's at Borussia Dortmund or at Salzburg. Different completely. So we'll have to see. But I think we spent enough time on that, don't you, Gary?
Definitely.
Please bear in mind, Brannigan. You'll then see whether I'm a decent judge of a player.
Fair enough. He
will go up somewhere.
Indeed, we keep an eye out. We'll revisit that one at the end of the window next year. This summer, I mean. So, I've asked you all to pick out one highlight of the season. I'm going to chuck mine in. Apologies if someone else wanted it, but my highlight of the season was QPR at home. We literally played a team who were, at the time, bang on for the playoffs, who I picked for the playoffs. We were in very, very good form. I think they were going into the game 10 or something unbeaten as well, or in a really good run, and they came to the Den, we outclassed them, outplayed them, took them off the park, and we scored 2 goals a boot. So that would be my one. I'll go with you first, Jeff. What was your highlight from the season?
There's obviously loads, but I'm going to pick one to save time, and it's a sad thing, but it's from the first game of the season. Jed Wallace's goal and his goal celebration. That's the happiest I've been watching Millwall all season. It was an amazing goal, amazing reaction. Yeah. We were at the other end from the goal. He ran the whole way. I love it when the players really seem to be at one with the crowd. And there have been times this season where you didn't get that impression, that there was a large section of our supporters who didn't really believe in us, which I think was very sad. But on that day, that's my highlight. Jed Wallace's goal and celebration.
Fair enough. Henry?
I think mine's probably got to be the Blackpool at home game, just for the fact I took my son to his first Millwall match, and that will be something I always remember. So that's my highlight. I mean, performance-wise, Gaz, it's hard to look beyond. I think I really enjoyed that QPR home game because I haven't got a particularly large soft spot for Queen's Park Rangers. So that would be. I mean, the other one that I would potentially mention would be the home game against Huddersfield, where I thought we potentially played the best football of the season as a whole. And the second half against West Brom, I thought was brilliant against a team that was supposedly supposed to be a top 3 side this year, and we really in that second half we outfought them. But yeah, for me as a personal thing would be Ted's first home game.
Fair enough. And going back to that West Bromwich Albion, we probably killed their season there and then on that game as well.
Yeah.
And Phil?
I've loved the whole season in a strange way. I've loved watching close games against top clubs with big pedigrees in Nottingham Forest and derbies. Bar Fulham, I think we've been in most of the games. 2 standouts for me. I took my daughter and grandsons to the Stoke game, and I cannot believe that my daughter has never been to the Den and she's 35 years old. So that was a real wow. Sorry, love. Sorry, my daughter. Sorry, Keely. She's getting a mention on the podcast. My daughter, first time Stoke. She absolutely loved it. But it took me 35 years to get a daughter down there. But a real highlight for me, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, the first home game of the season after lockdown. Queues, almost a party atmosphere, catching up with people, real buzz around the ground, a beer with mates. So for me, the highlight of the season was the first game after lockdown. I thought it was electric. I thought it was brilliant. And I thought the last game of the season against Peterborough had the same atmosphere. You know, there's something about getting back after the lockdown, and we was all there and catching up with people. And it was almost like the same with the last home game. We were in with a chance of the playoffs. So, yeah, the first game after lockdown was a good one for me, a big highlight.
Cool. Okay. That's been really interesting, guys. Lovely way to end talking about the team there. And we're now going to listen to Bethany Warren talking about Sands United.
We know that some men can struggle to talk about how they're feeling after the death of a baby. We hope that by building trust and a common bond, by playing together as a team, many more will be able to break their silence about baby loss and help others to do the same. Sands United FC has already saved the lives of men left feeling like they had no one to turn to in their grief. Are you a father who has lost a child? Talk to Sands United. They will help. Contact them on sufclondon@gmail.com. That's sufclondon@gmail.com. They will help.
Thanks, Bethany. I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Henry Morgan, Phil Colman, and Jeff Bernage. Earlier this week, Eamon caught up with the wonderful Kelly Webster and talked awards, health, and the Lions Food Hub. Let's see what she had to say.
Well, I caught up with Kelly Webster. That woman that has so many plates in the air, you don't know which one spinning faster. Anyway, apart from spinning plates, hello Kelly, how are you?
Hi Eamon, how you doing? I'm all right, thank you.
Good. What, another PFA award? That's 3 on the spin now. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, crazy to as we say, get a hat trick of awards. I was totally shocked. Didn't expect it. I thought I was going for a nice evening and chill out, and yeah, ended up having to speak in front of a hell of a lot of people. That was at the Players Awards night on Thursday.
All right. And it all come as a bit of a surprise. Well, that's fantastic. Anyone in football who's had 3 of those community awards?
I wouldn't know, to be honest, but yeah, that's why I said pretty shocked. Obviously, I didn't spend too much time on the pitch this season, so I was the last sort of thing that I was thinking about, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the way it goes sometimes. Well, congratulations on receiving that for the 3rd time on the trot, and that's from everyone at No One Likes Us Talking team, and we're really proud that you managed to get yet another award. However, health and football is something that struck you this year. I've seen you in a cast or a leg brace. What's going on?
So yeah, I am currently in an air boot. So I think quite a few people know I went in for surgery in November and thought that would be it, and I would be back running again and back trying to get my fitness up and everything else. And it got to the stage where I was back at work only for a couple of days. Everything was sort of on track, and then all of a sudden at work I started getting quite a lot of leg pain. Got to the stage where I was getting shooting pains up my leg, and I was literally limping and didn't even want to put any weight on it. So ended up getting back in to see the orthopaedic surgeons. They'd done an MRI and we went for the results, and I think me and Ellen both looked at each other and couldn't believe what we was looking at, because he's basically saying that I've got a lot of holes, a lot of crumbling of the shin bone, so like a lot of deterioration going on. Also, my ankle, they found out now, isn't straight, so they need to go back in, align the ankle, clean all the debris out from all the bits of bone that have dropped out of my shin in the ankle, clear fluid out my bottom of my foot, because I've got tons of fluid in the bottom of my foot. So like a mass repair job, so I have to wait and see whether I get good bone union afterwards. But he basically said to me that I'm never allowed to run again. He said, you can play golf, you can swim and you can cycle. And I was like, well, 1 out of 3 isn't bad, I suppose.
Dear, oh dear, Kelly. What an end to a brilliant footballing career with the Lionesses and more. So we're saddened by that.
Can't complain. I mean, did I think I'd still be playing at the age I am? No, I didn't think I'd still be playing. And did I think ever for 1 minute in my life, did I ever think that I'd put that shirt on for the club that I love and support? No. So it's ended probably the best way it could do, without obviously what's going on with my ankle.
No, you served the club well and you served the community trust well. And it's talking about the community trust and some of your activities under that umbrella that I come to next, and that's very much about the Lions Food Hub and the pressures that you must be under the ever-increasing energy and food poverty levels that exist. How are things going, Kelly?
It's been difficult, don't get me wrong. It's hard to see so many more people are struggling. Said with the cost of living crisis, our family numbers have doubled. I've looked at ways and means of getting in more funding and more help and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw the other day that we've just asked 2 people to be ambassadors for the Lions Food Hub, and I'm very happy to have and Karen Wilson. Karen. So I'm very happy to have them on board, because they're really into wanting to help us and where we can go forward and what things we can basically do to get more money in, because we've never really had any support from like Suffolk as a council or anything like that. So that's going to massively help us going forward. Yeah, it's not a good time to be around, I think, with what's going on. I just think we all look and we just want the right to food to be put in by the government, because I don't think anyone deserves to go hungry.
No, it's terrible times we're in. So many people I hear say that is a struggle at all sorts of levels, and people that you wouldn't expect to see queuing at food hubs are. And I can't see it getting any better, so I do hope you have the success.
Said we've got quite a lot of ideas going forward of what we can do and whatever else, and with Karen and Shona's help, I think we are really going to push going to, like, obviously I never want to turn anyone down, and we haven't, and that's why I'm looking now to try and get more support in. Obviously I've got Ellen and Kelly who volunteers on the day for us on a Friday, but there is so much that we do and people don't realise that it's not just opening up the doors and it's full up. It's like Ellen's been shopping today and we did a bit on Monday, and it's trying to keep all of that going. So everyone that supports us through banquet and every other way that they do, it really does mean a lot to us, because you're the people that are actually keeping us going.
That's fantastic. Don't forget, if you're listening, Banquet is BANKUET. You'll find it there, and you'll find the Lions Food Hub listed there. And if you can make a donation, either a one-off or one that takes a little bit out of what you've got, if you've got it, monthly, I know people, and the Lions Food Hub would be really, really pleased to receive it. So now the season's ended, Kelly, what about people dropping stuff off for the hub?
Yeah, they can always drop stuff into Millwall Community Trust. Sean's very happy for that. There is like a little basket as you go into the reception area, or they can message on either, obviously, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that. We'll pick up the message and we can arrange to meet. I mean, I've been going out as well, collecting clothes from certain people. I've got another guy from the underage girls, like parent. He's got some stuff for us, so I'm picking up that tonight. So yeah, I am sort of around when I can be to pick up bits, but you can always drop it into Millwall Community Trust. Sean's more than happy for it to go there. So
fantastic. Well, we'll have to catch up with you again, I'm sure, because there's so much going on. You've got to keep those plates spinning. Thanks, Kelly. It's brilliant to talk with you.
And you, Eamon, thank you very much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for your support. And thank you, Eamon, for your support, because, as I said, I know people just think I say it, but without your support and everyone else's support, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you.
Thanks again, Kelly.
Thanks, Eamon and Kelly. And Kelly, keep up the great work. We're really proud of you on the show for what you've done for us. Well done. Next up, we'll listen to Sean Daley talking awards and what's up next for the Community Trust.
I've got Sean Daley with me today, and we're looking back at what's been a really brilliant April for the Millwall Community Trust. The Community Day, so much going on, accolades for certain members of the team, and one in particular is Billy Mitchell, who was awarded by the PFA. Sean, tell us a bit about Billy, the ambassador for the Millwall Community Trust, and the award that he got.
Yeah, thanks, Eamon. So every year we have community champions, and the idea is that the players have a platform where they would endorse our programs. And we would ask players to go out and visit some of our sessions and sort of speak to the young people, speak to the families, speak to the children, etc. And then every year we would then nominate somebody that we felt has gone above what they should do to support our programs. And it was very easy this year. You know, we had Aidan O'Brien last year, but this year it's been Billy Mitchell. He's sort of come to the forefront of all our programs. And because he's like a product of the Community Trust, because that's where he first got spotted on a Community Trust football camp and then goes into an academy and then gets signed as a professional player, he really gets it. He's just come out and done so much for us this year, from like reading at schools with children that are underachieving with reading, helping out at the food bank, hosting workshops around mental health, around LGB. He's just supported us on all our programs, and to have that face and then to endorse our programs has just helped the programs elevate. So what happens then is the PFA will write to you and just say, could you nominate somebody as your PFA champion? So we'll nominate, and reasons why, put a video in as well. And then Billy will go up against all the other 72 clubs that have put in a community champion. And lucky enough, he won the championship one against the other 22. They just felt as a young person to address and give up his time to address issues around the community, they thought was brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And he puts in a good shift for Millwall as well, so that's pretty good all round. So that's Billy. Of course, you got Chris Congo, who's come on board, and Community Day was special, and it really propelled people's views in different ways. What are we going to see over the next 12 months, Sean?
Well, we've got to top what we're doing. You know, as far as I'm concerned, this is only the starting block for us. We've got a great platform of the things that we're doing. I've got lots coming on. We've just been nominated for another award through Suffolk Council for the work we did during COVID. So we'll be receiving that award in May, at the end of this month. But we've got the holiday camps again, where we're going to be putting camps on, feeding the children. We'll just work with the local community and see how we can help them support those needs. And the interesting things that are coming up are possibly a new training ground in Kent, which will open up us another area for the Community Trust to go out and work in.
That would be fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It's interesting, you tell me every year that it's the starting block after another year, so just keep it going. You're doing a great job, and we'll be looking out for what's up next. Thanks, Sean. Take care.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Eamon.
Cheers.
Thanks, Sean and Eamon. The award that Sean mentioned in there is the Suffolk Together Award. This is a new civic award that has been introduced to celebrate those who work over and above the call of duty to promote equality, diversity and inclusion, enable good community relations, tolerance and understanding. This award will recognise an individual, community group or organisation that has made an outstanding contribution to enabling Suffolk to be a more integrated, tolerant, welcoming, safe and inclusive borough, which values its rich diversity. Building on the work of the Suffolk Stands Together, the award celebrates great practice to promote equality, inclusion and good community relations. So that's a great award to be part of. Next up, we'll be hearing from our other teams, the Pride, the Romans and of course the Lionesses. Time to catch up with John Goodyear of Millwall Pride and Paul Loading of Millwall Romans. Hi John, is the season concluded for the Pride?
So this Sunday was Pride's last game of the season, sadly. We were playing Soho Freedom at home and we managed to go out on a high with a 3-1 victory. It was quite a close-fought game. We probably had the better of the first half and we managed to go in front with a nice goal by Reece. But in the second half they came back us a bit and actually managed to equalise. I think earlier in the season we might have let our heads go down, but we actually stepped up a gear, created quite a few chances and Reece got a second to put us 2-1 ahead before I managed to get the cherry on the cake in the last few minutes with a prod in from close range after Tammy had a free kick saved by the keeper. But yeah, overall it was a really impressive performance by the team and it just shows the development we've had through the season. We had quite a few tough results when we started off, but the last 3 games we've had 2 victories and 1 narrow 3-2 defeat, and I think it bears it's really good for next season where we're looking to kick on and get a few more points. But definitely it's been a great season by everyone. Massive congratulations to Andy for setting up a new team and getting a great group of players together, and yeah, we're really excited to be playing next season in Millwall Colos and hopefully moving even further up the table.
I'm sure you'll move up that table, John. Well done to Andy, who has brought the team together and of course the team. Next up is Paul Loading, talking Millwall Romans. Hi Paul.
Hi all, just a quick update from the Millwall Romans. The second half of the season is well underway now. We're halfway through. We played a team called Stokey back on the 1st of May. Quite a physical team over in Walthamstow. We couldn't really seem to find our game in the first half, but the second half we were just like a completely different team, and playing on grass, never suits us, but we really came together and ended up beating them to take the 3 points away. Sunday just gone, we had a friendly down at St Paul's against a team from southwest London. We played them a couple of years ago, and we were trying out some new players, to be honest, and we just played them off the park. I think it was 10-0 in the end on Sunday. We just played really well. We all just gelled well together. So really looking forward to what's coming up. This Sunday we're on a break, but next Wednesday we are playing at the Den in the evening. It's a 7:30 kick-off against Phoenix FC, the team from East London. They're still going to be good. They are a very, very good team. They've got some good skill and good pace going forward. It's going to be a very tough game. We do need to beat them, and we then play our last game of the season on the 22nd of May, which is against Stonewall FC. Stonewall FC, again, we played them at the start of the season, lost 4-0. They are currently leading out the front, so again, we need to beat both games we've got, but we are looking confident. We are looking good, and hopefully we'll be league champions again.
Thanks, Paul. And we are all hoping that you get your wins and that we can all see you at the Den on the 16th.
I caught up with Alex Russell. He's the number 2 to Lionesses boss Jack Wheeler, and Alex told us about what he thought of the season past. Well, what a season that was for the Lionesses. What would you make of it?
Absolutely, yeah, it was incredibly successful. I think you had me on last summer, you asked what the goal was, and it was consolidation, and we've bettered it. So I'd look back and think very fondly of the season that we've just had.
Was there any particular games that were a standout for you?
I think for me, probably my favourite was Dulwich away, 3-0. I think we'd had a Christmas break, we'd been away for a little while, but we continued to train over the break when arguably other teams didn't, and we sort of made progression on the rest of the league, and we came back and we competed. And Dulwich are a team that have been in and around promotions in the last 2 or 3 seasons, so to go there and take 3 points, keep a clean sheet, was a brilliant result.
What's it like working with Jack Wheeler?
Well, you'll probably listen to this. I don't want his head to be too big, but it's unreal, Stiff. So, he's come in, he's brought in a different mentality, he's brought in a brilliant crop of players. We've gone on to sort of, picked up points on the road, picked up points at home. It's incredibly professional, and it's actually a really good environment to be a part of.
Well, that's fantastic. And what can we look forward to next season?
We're recruiting well in the summer so far already. Obviously, we'll look good in the new kit as well for the new season coming, but we're looking to build on the sort of season we've had at hand, set ourselves a goal of the next season, the next 2 seasons, but ultimately it's just going out there and competing and picking up as many points as possible.
Well, let's hope we see as much improvement next season as we did this. Alex, thank you ever so much.
My pleasure, and thank you for your support throughout the season as well.
No problem at all, mate.
This is Jeff Bernage reporting on Millwall Lionesses. The first team may have finished their season, but this weekend the under-18 side play London City in the Capital Girls League Cup final. This match is on Saturday, kick-off 2:45, and it takes place at the Middlesex FA Stadium, Rectory Park, Northolt. That's UB5 5FA. And we spoke to them at training this week. First to manager Ted Jones, and then to striker Ellie Hinckley. I'm with Ted Jones, the under-18s manager for the Lionesses. It's Monday night. It's one of the last sessions before their cup final on Saturday. Ted, how's preparations going?
Preparations are going really well. Playing against the first team tonight. We're doing really strong. The first team have given us a great test, so we should be in a great position come Saturday.
Is the game on Saturday on artificial surface or
it's
on
at
grass?
Rectory Park, the Middlesex FA hub, so I think it's a 2:45 kick-off.
How do you think the season's gone so far? Has the team developed, do you think?
I think, definitely. I mean, it's a brand new team, so it's taken a bit of time for the girls to get to know each other, but in terms of development, we've had 13 players which have gone into the first team to either train or make their debuts out of a squad of 18, so that's a massive positive for the club. So they're getting there. We've got a good bunch of under-16s coming up with us as well, so we're confident moving forward.
You runners up this season?
Yeah, runners up, which is good. We want to go one more.
London City won it. That's who you're playing on Saturday. All the best. We'll be thinking of you on Saturday afternoon.
Cheers, thank you, Jeff.
I'm with Ellie Hinckley, who plays centre forward.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the game on Saturday?
Absolutely buzzing. I've been waiting for a very long time.
Are you top scorer?
Yes, I am top scorer.
Yeah. And what do you think the chances are? You're going to score?
Yeah, 100%. And we're winning it as well.
Good. I saw the semi-final.
Yeah.
Right. How do you think the season's gone for the 18s? Because I know you spent about half the time in the first team, about half the time in the under-18s. How do you think the under-18 team's developed?
Well, to be honest, I think the progress we've made is just, I've never seen it from any club I've been with, and I think it's been hard. We've had our difficulties, but I think we've really come together as a team, and we've worked hard. We've worked through the hard times, but I think that we've built a really good foundation. I think we're going to go with a really positive attitude, and Ted's been great as well, and he's helped us a lot, so I think it's been really good.
Be good to end the season on a high, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And then look forward to next season.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. Look, we'll all be thinking of you on Saturday. We won't be thinking about the FA Cup final.
No.
We'll be thinking about yours. All the best. We're right behind you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ellie.
Cheers, Jeff. And we go to you first to have a bit of a roundup on what you've just heard there on Kelly, the Community Trust, and obviously the LGBT and the Lionesses. What were your thoughts, Jeff? I know there's a lot to take in.
I've got every admiration for what Kelly does. I endorse what Eamon says about her keeping a lot of plates spinning. She had great help from Ellen as well. Regarding the Romans and the Pride, that's a very interesting development that Sean Daley has been the author of. It's important that everybody in society feels welcome to play football, and I'm very proud that Millwall Football Club have a welcome attitude. the Lionesses, I've seen a lot of the first team. I've seen a fair bit of the under-18 team. The improvement from the beginning of the season to the end has been very striking. The first team, they finished about mid-table, but were very unlucky in the League Cup semi-finals, the eventual winners, Dartford. They lost to a 120th minute goal at Dartford, played at Dartford's ground, and so that was a real disappointment. But they shouldn't be too down because they've had a marvellous season. That's a great atmosphere among the team, and Jack and Alex have done brilliantly. The under-18s, they're up against it. They're playing against the champions. They haven't managed to beat them in the league games, but they have improved, and they're going to give it a real good go. And I don't rule out them winning that cup. I'd love to see it, and I'll be there and not looking at the cup final, the FA Cup final on telly. I'll be watching the Lionesses under-18s try and win their cup.
Fair enough. Thanks, Jeff, and a good roundup, and thank you for your point and recording in the middle of that. Henry, what are your thoughts, mate, on all that?
I think it's great that we've got, as I always say, so much good community stuff, multifaceted. I mean, we probably shouldn't need food banks in the 5th or 6th biggest economy in the world, should we? But unfortunately we do. And I think the work that, the Millwall Community Trust has done around that, Kelly Webster, at the forefront of that stuff is absolutely unbelievable. All the other stuff that goes on down there as well, the disability football team, I talk about this every time I'm on the show. The Premier League kick stuff as well, in the cages that Phil was talking about earlier, because of the cutbacks to youth clubs, Sure Start, all of that kind of stuff have meant that we really need to have that carved into our society. And also the fact that we support diversity in the forms of the different football teams we've got. One of the first teams to have a women's team back in the day, successfully going strong and rebuilding. It'll be fantastic to see them try and kick on a bit next year. And obviously, the Pride and the Lions. Again, it would be fantastic, wouldn't it, if we could have more players that were openly explicit about their sexuality in the game? Because, if you look at the statistics, it just can't be so that we don't have any professional footballers really that have come out, very, very few, and have said that they're gay. It boggles me. It sometimes feels like we're moving forward and then it's 4 stepwards back, So I'd love to see a lot of these things more integrated into the fabric of the football club and celebrated. I know there was a little bit of that this year, but for me, there needs to be a whole new push on all of that diversity side next season. And I think unless we do that, a lot of the stuff we've been discussing this evening is going to fall by the by.
Well said, Henry. And Phil?
Yeah, I just want to wish Kelly that injury dreadful. I know that feeling. It didn't retire me, but certainly my brother Nick and my son Liam both lost their football careers to horrible injuries. But what you have to do is what Nick did when he had a nasty one. You have to think of the future, and you have to think, I want to be able to walk, as she said. Well, and if you can't play football, you've got 50, 60 years on this planet of walking with good health. So I wish you all the best, and we know that feeling. I'll just sum it up by saying I think Millwall Football Club is more than just a first team. And we've got to be thankful that we've got some absolutely bloody brilliant people in those positions, in those roles, supporting Millwall teams, the Romans, and Sean Daley and the Millwall Community Trust, because these are brilliant people supporting our community, and it's so much more than a football club and just a first team. And we've got to be thankful for those people, and I hope it can all be integrated and it just grows and grows. But it's fantastic that these people are around. It really does give me a bit of faith in the things they do.
Here. And good luck to the Lionesses under 18 in the cup final this weekend, and hopefully we'll hear about that all over Twitter or from Jeff. So we've had a question from one of our listeners, Harry Gibb. He has asked, It has been said that the late actor Stanley Baker, who starred alongside Michael Caine in Zulu, was a Millwall fan. I asked my father if he remembers him attending the Den and if his recollection was about him being interested in buying the club. Can anyone shed any light on the story, one way or another? I believe there's someone on the panel tonight who can answer that question.
That's not me, I'm far too young.
It's old dear Jeff, I believe.
Yeah, well, I'm older than you, Phil, so I can shed a little tiny bit of light on it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Interesting character, Stanley Baker. He had a liking for the underworld figures of the day and was quite good friends with both the Richardson brothers when they were young, and they played for a team whose name just eludes me at the moment, but they also had a connection with Cray Valley when they played at Grasslands down in Orpington. So I know he attended at least one match, but I don't know that he ever seriously contemplated investing or buying the club. I suspect that's a big exaggeration because the chairman of the day, Mickey Purser, never mentioned that, and as people might know, he eventually, a much maligned figure, possibly rightly, but when his time was up, he called my dad to a meeting and presented him with the shares, which was like 87% of all the shares, and said, I'm handing it to you, you do what you think is best, Mr. Bernage. Didn't charge him anything.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that, Jeff.
No. If ever I do the memoirs, I'll try and get that in. But so that's Stanley Baker, had connections. He was also a Labour Party member, very keen, was quite friendly with Harold Wilson when he was the Prime Minister. Harold Wilson came to a game. He was a Huddersfield fan. He came to an evening game when Millwall played Huddersfield, and he was a bit concerned there might be a division in the House of Commons, so he had a car standing by outside the director's box to get him back to the House very quickly. And I believe he had some kind of paging system, which meant that he could be alerted that was the case. So that's the best I can do on Stanley Baker.
Brilliant.
He did play a game in Millwall colours, some sort of charity game, but I best remember the fact that he did know all the local faces, including the Richardsons.
Fair enough. I hope, Harry, that answers your question. Don't forget, you'll be able to listen to No One Likes Us Talking Team bring reports from our games both home and away, where Kai Bennett will next season be continuing his role as the roving reporter. You can also get updates on Millwall community matters on Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. That's it from me. Thanks, Henry, Phil and Jeff.
Cheers, Kev.
Thanks.
My pleasure, Gary. My pleasure. Well done.
Cheers. And finally, I want to say a big thank you to all our support this year with the show, and we look forward to producing more shows for you next season. So it's good night from me, and it's good night from them. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.